Hey folks, I'm Dennis. Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to show you how to change the oil on a Hustler Raptor X with a Kawasaki engine. Let's get started. Here's what you'll need to do the job. You'll need the correct oil filter for your engine. My engine is a Kawasaki FR 651V, so it takes a 49065-0721 filter. You're going to need 2.2 quarts of oil for your engine. Here's the chart that Kawasaki gives for this engine. You got a range of viscosities you can use. I'm in Middle Georgia, it's usually hot here, so I'm using 2050. You could use 1040, that covers a big range. 1030, just a little bit cooler. You can use straight 30 weight, straight 40 weight if you're in a real hot area. And if you are in a colder area, then you can use 5W20. So in my case, I'm using 20W50. With a filter, you need 2.2 quarts. I don't recommend changing oil without changing the filter. You're going to need a 10mm wrench. You're going to need the drain tube that came with the Mower, which is a piece of, looks like probably 1/2-inch tubing, vinyl tubing. And then you're going to need a piece of aluminum foil to catch the oil coming out of the filter. And you need a drain pan. This is the right side of the mower. Right there's your filter. Right there is your drain tube. Okay, so here's your filter. Here's where you put your oil in. That's your dipstick. Right there's the drain fitting. This tube is going to go on that nipple right there, and then your 10mm wrench will loosen that up to drain it. There's a hole in the engine pan right here. So what you want to do is take this tube, put it on that nipple, run it down through this hole, go behind these cables, stick it down in the hole, run it to the front. You're going for this area here. You want to go to the front and the outside of that transmission. That way you can get your oil drain pan under it. Then come in here, put it all the way up on that nipple, and you might have to finagle the other end of that tube to get it to go all the way through there. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You don't want it to have a hard kink in it, but if it's got a little bend or whatever, it'll be fine. So I like to get that on there first. The first thing I'm going to drain though is the oil filter. So what I do is I take my aluminum foil and basically just kind of make it work. I like to fold a little bit of a lip on there. Be careful not to tear it. And I'm gonna make a cup above the drain for the oil and below the oil filter. And I'm gonna tuck all that up underneath there like so. The nice thing about these Kawasaki engines is underneath this filter there's a lip. It gives you about 1 inch or so of depth to catch that oil, so that it doesn't run down the block. So as long as you get this foil behind that lip, you're good to go. It's going to drain down onto your foil. Kind of create a little channel like that, and then I can put my oil pan right up underneath here, so that the oil will run down here, run down that channel and into my oil pan. And stick it right up underneath here, and then I can just take the filter off. And if they put it on way too tight, you have to have a wrench. Sometimes they get put on too tight and you have to have a wrench, sometimes not. So this particular one is on very tight. Then you can do the rest by hand. You can see it'll drain the oil down. And just tip that up as soon as you can. And you can see this little lip here now that helps you with your drainage. The next thing you do is you're going to take your new filter, and you want to take a little bit of oil and rub it all the way around the seal. What that does is that basically just keeps it from sticking for the next time. It kind of seizes to the block, and then it's just harder to get off. Some people are going to argue with this. That's fine. It doesn't matter if you use old or new oil on this. It's literally 2 drops. And this is not getting into the engine. You're putting it on the seal and that's it. So it really doesn't matter. So take your finger, dip it in your oil, put it on this seal, just rub it around there, So all you need is just a light film on that seal. Take your filter, thread it on there. Once the seal makes contact with the block, give it about another quarter to a half a turn. That's all you got to do. It's as tight as it needs to be. A lot of people want to crank it on there like nobody's business. It doesn't have to be that tight. Then I just carefully get my tin foil out of here. I like to take my oil rag and go up underneath here and wipe that lip off so I don't get any drainage on the engine pan. And again, that's only just a few drops, but you can stick your finger and your rag in between the filter and that lip. Slide your drain pan up so that this tube is pointing into the drain pan. You might have to look up underneath to make sure that it's going to drain into the pan when you open that valve. Personally, I think the tube should be a little bit longer. If it was a little bit longer, I could just run it into the pan and not worry about it. So I'm directing the end of this tube into my drain pan. Like I say, if it was a little bit longer, it'd be, I think it'd be a little bit easier, but it's not. So take your 10mm wrench, put it on here, loosen it up. I'll loosen it up maybe 2 or 3 turns, something like that. And then I just watch it until it finishes draining. The manual says to let it drain for 10 minutes. So then once it's finished draining, tighten that drain plug back in. And this thing is plastic, so you don't want to over tighten it, but you do want to make sure that it's snug. That's tight enough. And then when you take that tube out, you got to be a little careful, and you know, if you're trying to be neat and not fling oil everywhere. So I'll take my oil rag, stick it up underneath there, just take that loose, pull it up here, set it on the oil rag, wipe that nipple off, and then pull that all out together so I don't get oil everywhere. And then I just store my drain tube with my, I actually put it like in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't get oil in my toolbox, but then just store it in my toolbox so I don't lose it. If you do lose the thing, what you can do, just go to your building materials store, and yes, this is a 1/2 inch inside diameter piece of tubing, so a piece of vinyl tubing, anything like that, 1/2 inch, and get whatever length you want. I'm gonna probably go and buy one that's by a length of, this is 12 inches. So with the way my oil drain pan and all that works, I want one that's probably more like 16 or 18. So I'm probably gonna buy like 18 inches of 1/2 inch tubing, and then I'll cut it to fit so it's easier to run in my drain pan. I don't have to hold the end of it. Then you'll take your dipstick out, wipe it off so you don't drip oil. And I just set it off to the side. I use a funnel because if I don't, I'll get oil everywhere. When you take your, I didn't mention this, but when you take your dipstick out, like if the cap is real nasty and stuff, wipe it off with a rag first before you take it out so you don't knock all that grime and dust and crud down into the engine. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me pour oil, but I'm going to put 2.2 quarts in. The other thing that I didn't mention, Kawasaki recommends using a synthetic blend that contains zinc in the oil for the life of the engine. So, of course, they recommend obviously using their own oil, which is fine. But if you buy a different brand, you probably do want to make sure that it's got zinc in it, because that prolongs the engine life. So then when you're done putting your oil in, take your funnel out. Since you've changed the filter, you have to get the oil circulating in the engine to fill the filter up in order to get an accurate reading. So before we're even going to check it, just stick your dipstick in there, tighten it up, and then start the engine, let it run for just a minute or so, and then shut it back off. Also, while it's running, you can check for leaks. You want to check your filter and your drain valve, make sure that it's not leaking. All right, so that's enough to get the oil circulating through the whole engine. Then you want to wait 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to check the oil. All right, now that everything's drained back down to the bottom, unscrew your dipstick, wipe it off. Take your dipstick, you're going to push it in. You're not going to turn it on the threads. You're just going to push it in until it stops. Take it back out, and then check the reed, and it's right to the full mark, so it's good to go. Put your dipstick back in, make sure you tighten it up. Check one more time for leaks. Since you ran it, no leaks. So we're all done. The last thing you got to do is make sure that you properly dispose of your oil. I pour my used oil into the quart jugs that I just used, and then drop it off at my local parts house, and they recycle it. Thanks for watching my video, folks. Give me a thumbs up if you would. Subscribe to my channel. I hope to see you back real soon. Take care. God bless you.